knew nothing about. And by the time I finished, he was still smiling, and he said, "So, you would like to convert?" He's trapped me. I thought, if I say, "Yes, I'll convert, just give me the papers and show me what dance or jig to do, and I'll sign on the dotted line," he'll say, "You insincere, fickle woman, how dare you lie and insult Islam?" And then if I say, "No, I'm not interested in joining your religion," he'll say, "You insolent woman, how dare you insult Islam?" Either way, I'm going to be carted off and stoned. This stoning business never really left my mind that far. And so I'm sitting there in agony, and then a little light bulb went off, and I said, "Thank you so much for your kind offer, but I can't possibly take such a life-changing decision while I'm in prison. But if you let me go, I promise I will read the Quran and study Islam when I get back to London." And he smiled, and he didn't say anything more, and he got up and he glided out, and Hamid went running after him. He returned and said to me, "You're going home on a Red Crescent plane." I punched the air and congratulated myself for having dealt so cleverly with this cleric. And within half an hour I was on a truck and off to Kabul. But far from going onto a Red Crescent plane, I was taken into the terrorist wing of this prison. And the prison door was opened, and I was told, "You stay here, go in." And I said, I'm not going in there. I said, "I don't do squalor." I said, "Look at the state of this place." I said, no, put me in a hotel, my newspaper will pay for it." And they said, "You are a bad woman, you came without a passport, without a visa into our country, you have to be punished. Go in." And I refused to go into this cell. Now, I would have thought an evil, brutal regime would have just buzzed me across the ear and booted me in. But they didn't want to touch me, and so this row was going on, and this prison door swung open, and 6 women wearing hijabs came out. And one of them said, in an English accent, "Are you from the Red Cross?" I said, "No." And we got talking, and I suddenly realised that these were Christian charity workers who'd been accused of trying to convert Muslims to Christianity. And they said, "Come and stay in our cell tonight, and we'll try and sort this out in the morning." And I just thought, well, if I do get out of this hellhole, it'll certainly add to my story, because these women were very well known. There was 2 Americans, 3 Germans, and an Australian woman, and some male aid workers who'd been held as well. So I went into their cell, and it was quite different to the place where I'd been held in Jalalabad, which I found out later was ex-King Charles' Winter Palace. But here I was in a real Afghan prison of your worst imagination. And I just saw the bars on the window, the concrete floors, the horrible rickety beds and the mattresses on the floor. And I just started to cry. And like any nicotine addict in a panic, I went for my cigarettes. Although cigarettes were also banned, when the Taliban realised that I liked a cigarette, they kept me in plenty of cigarettes. So I pulled out a pack of cigarettes, and I popped one into my mouth and then took it out again and said, "Does anybody mind if I smoke?" And was just about to light up when they said, "Yes, this is a no smoking cell." I thought, how the hell do I find the only no smoking cell in Asia? You know, this is such bad luck. And what sort of Christians are these? You know, they can see how upset I am. And they said, "If you must smoke, you can go out into the courtyard and smoke outside." And so I went, all right. So I got up to leave, and the Australian girl, Deanna, said, "We're just about to hold a meeting." And she said, yes, we have 2 meetings a day. And I'm thinking, what happens round here that they have 2 meetings a day? It must be the escape committee. So I'm looking for the stoves to one side or patches of damp earth on the floor. And I said, do you mind if I listen in to this meeting? And they said, no, not at all. So I suddenly lost interest in my Benson and Hedges and sat down on the edge of this bed. And the 6 of them sat in a circle on the concrete floor and pulled out the Bibles. And they started reading very loudly from a passage in the Bible. And I'm thinking, I don't believe this. These people are the prisoners of the Taliban, the most evil, brutal regime in the world. As soon as they hear them reading from the Bible, they're going to come charging in and whip them and beat them up, and I'm sitting watching, and it'll be collective responsibility, and I'm going to get beaten up, and I'm just watching, and I'm chewing onto my knuckles, waiting for the door to fly open. Of course, as I was to find out later, the Holy Quran states that as Muslims we must allow people of the book, i.e. Jews and Christians, to carry out their prayers and their religion. And this is what the Taliban were doing, but I didn't realise that, and I'm sitting, waiting for the door to burst open. After 20 minutes of Bible reading, they then pulled out pieces of handwritten paper, and they started singing. Now then, I mentioned before I was a Christian, I used to go to church maybe twice a month, which as we know in Britain is bordering on fanaticism. And as I used to sing in the choir as well, and used to have quite somber Victorian hymns. These songs were really evangelical, hallelujah, happy clappy hymn singing. And at that point I got up and went out into the courtyard and smoked 3 cigarettes off the trot. And just then the Yvonne started the call to prayer, and I just thought, I've got nutty Christians on this side of the wall, nutty Muslims on that side of the wall. My family will imagine I'm being tortured, and indeed I am if I have 5 times of that, 2 hours a day of this. And I felt as though I was caught in an Andy Warhol movie. I have kept in touch with the girls, and I have to say, although I make fun of them, their faith definitely got them through their ordeal. The next day, I was given a new set of clothes by one of the German girls, and I set about washing my other clothes in cold water with snowflakes, soap flakes, and a pumice stone. And I'd read about this in some living history thing about women washing using these stones, and there I was doing something that was probably last done in our family by my grandmother or great-grandmother. So I washed my clothes and hung them up on the line. And the prison governor, who had the biggest black turban I had ever seen, came hurtling in to the prison yard, and he said to me, "Remove." And I looked and I said, "It's my washing." He went, "Remove." I said, "I'm not removing it, I've just washed it and it's now drying in the sun." And then he said, "Cover." I said, "You stupid man, you've obviously never done the washing in your life. If I cover it, how will it dry? How will the sun dry my clothes?" And he started trembling with some sort of rage. And he dramatically threw his head in one direction and he said, "Remove." And I followed the line of his finger, and he was referring to my underwear. I'm not going to go into great detail, but we're not talking small, lacy, salacious things. And Bridget Jones, the girls will know what I'm talking about. And he said, "Remove." And I said, I'm not removing anything. This is my washing. It's staying on the line. I said, if you don't like anything up there, I said, you remove it. I thought he was going to pass out. He then spun around and stormed off. And 15 minutes later, I kid you not, the foreign minister of Afghanistan, the Condoleezza Rice, the Colin Powell of Afghanistan, came in to the prison and he said, Miss Ridley, you have to remove those items. And I'm thinking, this man should be involved in international shuttle diplomacy between Washington, London, Islamabad. His country is about to be bombed by the biggest superpower in the world, and he's embroiled in a row over my knickers on the washing line. And I'm thinking, well, what's going on here? And I said, look, this is the female wing of the prison. This is the female washing line. And if you two clear off, there's no men around. He said, no, he said, you were wrong. He said, our soldiers sleep above the female wing of the prison. If they look out of the window and they see those items, they have impure thoughts. And I'm looking now at my underwear with said, this is impossible. And the row went on for a good hour, long after the clothes had dried. And I just thought to myself, America doesn't have to drop bombs on Afghanistan, just fly a regiment of female soldiers waving their underwear and the Taliban will put you off. I just couldn't understand this, but there were many other similar incidents. I mean, throughout this whole time, I was terrified. I did fear for my life. But the war did start, and I was convinced that that is it. I am not going to be released. And the morning after the war started on October the 7th, 2001, the Foreign Minister, Mr. McWattle, came to see me and he said, today you are being released, inshallah. I said, what is this inshallah you put on the end of every sentence? Because it never happens. I now know it means God willing. But sure enough, a people carrier arrived. I was put in it and driven back down. We went through various checkpoints, and most of the time the soldiers were happy to see me go. At Sarobi, they wanted my head, and the driver mercifully drove through the roadblock and broke the post and to get me down to the border. And, there was a lot of anger because the war had started, civilians had been killed, hospitals had been targeted and bombed, and so people were very angry. And they pulled up to the border at Torkham, which is a big dust bowl between Afghanistan and Pakistan, and they said, you are free to go. Even at that point, I didn't trust them. And I got out of the car backwards so I could watch them just in case they pulled a gun and shot me in the back. So I got out of the car in a very bizarre way, and then I moved over no man's land